Hello, everyone. Welcome to June. I can't believe that we're already approaching summer. We're this far away from officially summer. So it is, I've got a few housekeeping notes before we dig into the session today. It's National Pride Month. It's National Electricity Month. And like I say, in 2 weeks' time is summer solstice, which is the longest day of the year. And it is National Indigenous Peoples Day. So we've got things planned around all of these national events within the clubhouse. So make sure you're reading up on the session or the announcement in the lobby about the scheduling and checking out the sessions when they're happening each week. And once we get through June, we're into Summer Summit. So this is very exciting. If you weren't with us last year, we had some great prizes, and hint, hint, there shall be more great prizes. So keep an eye out for those announcements. We're not telling yet. So Summer Summit, if you don't know, is 2 months long. It's all of July, it's all of August, and we are covering science, technology, engineering, math, and trades. All of the careers and lots of fun activities for those. And with that in mind, we want to make sure we're reaching as many students as possible. So you might have noticed in the lobby today, I posted refer a friend hoodies. So refer 5 friends and get a STEM for Girls hoodie. So we're looking out for that. Some details again in the lobby, or just reach out to me. Hit my name anywhere you find it in the clubhouse, and you'll be able to send me a chat message. Let's see. And for those of you in grade 12 this year, if you've already been accepted into a trades or technology program, keep an eye out for the WRDC Hydro scholarship applications. They'll be out later this month as well. And speaking of NL Hydro, they are the major sponsor this month for electricity. So we're going to bring this back full circle there now. You should have received a mail out with this electricity kit. Do an activity, get 15 points. Do more activities, get 5 more points for each activity. Post those with FeedLoop Go in the event feed. And in your mail out, you would have got a power bank with NL Hydro and STEM for Girls on it, as well as this FAQ. So this is why we're here today. We're with Drive Electric NL. Maybe you've already had a chance to kind of look it over. Maybe you've got more questions. So if you're with us live, pop them into the chat. And with that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to Kira Hanesly from Drive Electric NL.
Thank you so much. My name is Kira Hanesly, and I am the coordinator at the Drive Electric Resource Center here in St. John's. And my everyday job is to talk to people about making the transition to electric cars. So we're going to talk about that, but I first wanted to start with a little bit of information about who I am and how STEM fits into my life, because it's quite a relevant story here. As I was growing up, my friends called me the research queen because I always wanted to know more things. And so if anybody wanted to know something, they would always ask me, hey, will the research queen do this or find the answer to that for me? I did decide at the end of high school to go ahead and get a engineering degree in chemical engineering. I did that. I didn't have a lot of people in my life that were engineers or otherwise in the science. And so it was a struggle for me, but I was the first person in my family to get a college degree. So I was very proud of that. I went on to work for a chemical engineering company that did pilot plant research, did that for about 5 years. And then it's where my path with STEM kind of started to diverge, because I got pregnant with my first child, got married, got pregnant, and then decided I didn't want to work with so many chemicals. And I ended up doing actually the bookkeeping for 3 McDonald's restaurants because they would let me bring my baby into work. And what I realized as I was doing that is all this work that I had done on math became very relevant in that position. So I was able to use the same skills I had. And as time went on, I realized that I looked at numbers about a business the same way I looked at numbers that I had learned about in engineering. And so I was able to start to see things that were happening in a business and give advice to the owners on how they might improve their business. That ended up becoming a consulting business. So again, I wasn't technically in engineering anymore. I wasn't technically in science anymore, but I was able to use that same type of thinking to be able to have the flexibility that I wanted for that stage in my life, but to make more money per hour because I had these skills that a lot of people don't have in business by being able to see the numbers. So I used to say, I used to watch for things in engineering to make sure that they weren't going to blow up or catch on fire. And then I started to do the same thing in business, wanted to make sure nothing was going to blow up or catch on fire in somebody running their business. That eventually led, I did that for about 20 years. And then as both of my children went off to college in the last few years, I was able to continue to do that work on the road. And I took a 3-year road trip, basically, all over the US and Canada in my electric car. And I traveled 150,000 kilometers and went to all kinds of beautiful places. In the process of that, I ended up discovering how much I loved Newfoundland and decided that this is where I wanted to relocate for my new home base. And it just so happened that Drive Electric NL was looking for someone to spearhead their new resource center and talk to people about electric vehicles. And I felt like I was the best candidate with all the experience that I had gained. And so it was an interesting journey for me that so many things in my life ended up being on the back of the STEM training that I got, even though that really wasn't a term when I was your age. And but it has opened up so many doors to the things that I've really wanted to do, even though the thing that I'm doing now did not exist back when I was in middle school or high school. So I just wanted to give you that background. And now I'd like to tell you a little bit more about electric cars and some of where this is going to go in the future and some potential careers and directions you might want to consider as you move forward. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. So I've got to start off. This is my cute dog that travels with me in my car. And I just wanted to show a picture also of my road trip. This is actually at Gross Morn. I was charging my car at some of the charging stations there. So here's the future of electric vehicles and the related careers. So when it comes to electric vehicles, the 3 important things are the cars, the charging, and then the infrastructure. This is also my car parked at a national park in Nova Scotia. And these are cars that don't exist yet, but there's a lot of different types of cars. And right now, the comparison of different models of cars that are available isn't the primary purpose here, but pretty much everything that you see, including semi-trucks, will eventually be an electric vehicle. Delivery vans, sports cars, pickup trucks, those will be coming to the island this summer. We know of some that are coming, and so they're on their way. It's important to know that the government of Canada has put in a mandate that by 2035, no vehicles will be sold that are not zero emission vehicles. So 100% of the vehicles need to be zero emissions. And that means they would be electric vehicles only. So on this other side, you can see, you may be familiar with hybrid vehicles. So they have a gasoline motor like your normal gasoline car, an electric motor, and a battery, and they also carry gas. So basically they have the systems of both a gas car, which sometimes we refer to as an ICE car, which stands for internal combustion engine. But it also has all the components of the battery. And so basically the gas engine is generating the electricity for the car, but it's also burning the gas. A plug-in electric vehicle is one that also has maybe a smaller gas can and a bigger battery, and the battery can be plugged into charge, and then you have the gasoline motor to be able to be as a backup. But again, that's also not considered a zero emissions vehicle. And so what we're talking about today is a BEV, or battery electric vehicle. And those are vehicles that have a larger battery and an electric motor that allows it to drive 100% on electric. So, 2035 is only 13 years away. So I'll be interested to see what percentage of you never ever touch a nice car. If you maybe you'll only get to drive a battery electric, and I think that would be great. So one of the biggest questions we get in the center is, how about charging? I don't understand all these chargers. Maybe you've seen the chargers around. This is one, if you can see in the back, it's a Signal Hill. And the first thing to understand is really the time is the difference. So there's 3 types of chargers. There's level 1 chargers that literally take days to charge a fully battery electric vehicle. There's level 2 chargers, which take hours to charge. And there's level 3 chargers that take minutes to charge. So I'd like to explain to you the difference between those. So there's 2 ways to charge a vehicle. One with AC power, which is like the power that you have in your house. And then there's DC power. Now, the way that the faster charging comes through DC charging, and the charger itself is what controls how the car receives the power. On the AC charging, actually the chargers aren't really chargers. They're just basically cords, like an extension cord, and the car itself has the onboard charger, and the car decides how it's going to charge its battery. I did X out the charging plugs that aren't available here in the North America. But just so you know, the standard for AC charging on level 2 charging, which is the slower charging that would take hours, that's a J1772. And there's, on the fast charging side, there's something called CHAdeMO, and there's something called CCS. Those 2 allow fast charging. And in the middle is the Tesla plug that allows it to AC charge and also DC charge. So I know that sounds confusing, but as I show you the chargers, it's good to know that right now there is a number of different types of chargers, and that's because they were all started with different purposes and have different specifications, but all the technology is coming together. And I think this will probably be, maybe minus CHAdeMO, will be the chargers that go on from this point forward. But the good news is there are ways to use the chargers across different plug types, and I can discuss that too. So the first are the level 1 chargers, and those are the very, very slow chargers. This is something that you could plug into a standard outlet in your home. Maybe you have an outlet on the outside of your house that maybe somebody who has a truck plugs in their truck overnight to keep the block warm, to be able to start it in the winter. On that same outlet, you could plug in an electric car. You might, if you're driving very far every day, you might not want to do that because it may not fill up overnight. But you can get about 80 to 100 kilometers overnight with that kind of charging. And in a more remote area, that might be your only choice. And so when people say, well, I can't drive an electric car because there aren't chargers everywhere. Actually, if there's any electricity, you can charge. And so actually there's more places to charge in the world than there are gasoline, for sure. Now, this is often slow, and but it is always an option. And I've done this many times to be able to go to somewhere that I wanted to go. And then when I get there, people would wonder how I could have possibly gotten there in an electric car. But I just planned it around spending a few days in a nice area to enjoy a little bit of vacation, and then was able to move on to my way, even though I was a long, long ways from standard chargers. Now, the second is level 2 chargers. these are chargers that you might have at home. And these are chargers that would make a vehicle full the next morning. And this too is also a concept that's difficult for many people and is an important difference. People want to know how fast the chargers can charge a car, but actually with an electric car, it doesn't matter because 95% of your driving occurs very close to your home. And so if you're able to plug that car in every night with a level 2 charger, even if you run it down very low, it would be full the next morning. So all you're doing, just like plugging in your cell phone before you go to bed, as soon as you get home, you plug in your car and it's full the next morning. And so you always, have the power to go. Down here at the bottom are examples of what level 2 chargers look like. Any one of these might be in someone's home. They all basically do the same. And as I said before, these are all basically just cords. And there are a lot of these that are free, that are at hotels, at restaurants, and at national parks. I showed you a couple of pictures of those. And so that's also an interesting way if you want to go to a more remote location. It doesn't necessarily have to stop you. If you're taking a family trip, you might actually be able to stop at a hotel that will let you, get a free tank full of power overnight as you're staying at their hotel. And that's also a fun way to travel and to support businesses that are kind of on the forefront of moving to electric. So, and then finally, there's what are called level 3 fast chargers. These are the fast chargers that Newfoundland Hydro has installed across the province. And there's typically one stall per location. And then they typically have the CCS plug as well as the CHAdeMO plug, which are these two that show the different types of styles. Now, the ones here in Newfoundland do not have a Tesla charger, but I'm here in Newfoundland and I drive a Tesla. And let me just stop sharing for a second here. So for the level 2 chargers, I have an adapter that looks like this that goes on the level 2 plug that has that end. And then this end goes in my Tesla, so I can charge at any of the level 2 chargers in Newfoundland. And on the fast charger, this one's kind of exciting. It's kind of big, but that's the CHAdeMO side and that's the Tesla side. So I'm also able to charge at all of these chargers. So let me go back to this. So even though there are no Tesla chargers here in Newfoundland, with those 2 adapters, I'm able to charge anywhere that I like. So again, that's the good news, that it doesn't stop you no matter which type of electric vehicle you have. So here's a map of the fast chargers that are across the island right now. All the ones that are gray are ones that exist, and all the ones that are green are the ones that are going in right now. And so as you can see, there's a pretty good coverage of the island and you can get to where you're going. And because the fast chargers charge more in minutes than in hours, a stop at one of those, depending on the car, will take anywhere from 30 minutes to maybe 90 minutes. Probably 90 minutes is on the high end, so maybe 30 minutes to 60 minutes. And then you'd be able to go on your trip. Now, I think most people think of that as, well, I don't stay at a gas station that long. But, whenever I would travel with my children, we'd stop at a gas station, they'd go in, they'd get something to drink, get something to eat, we'd let the dog out, I'll use the washroom and whatever, and you very quickly have used up 30 to 45 minutes, or maybe even an hour if you've stopped to get a burger and something else, or even stop to see a museum or take a quick hike to see a waterfall or something. And so I found that when there are fast chargers available, it doesn't stop at all or really change that much the overall trip. Which is really exciting. And this, again, is just the beginning of the infrastructure, especially here in Newfoundland. So I think that right now it's hard for a lot of people to picture how could we possibly in 12 to 13 years not be having gas engines, but this is just the beginning, and the infrastructure is going to ramp up really quickly. And the reason I know that is because of all the time that I've traveled in the US. And the US is quite a bit ahead of Canada and quite a bit ahead of Newfoundland. But I think it's a really good thing to know about where this is going. So Tesla has kept their own charging plug, and they put in their own charging network. So right now in the US, about 80% of the electric vehicles purchased are Teslas. And it's partly because people really like to use the charging network. And the difference with Tesla is that when they put into charging station, they put in between 6 and 10 stalls. So 6 to 10 vehicles can be charging at the same time, versus here, we've only have one station, one fast charger per location. And I'm sure those will double up eventually, but it will eventually have, will slow down people's ability to charge because there may become lines. But as we can see, it demonstrated, in the US, that once larger charging stations are put in place, whether that's by Tesla or someone else, then it becomes not a problem, because you can plug in your car, go have lunch, go do some shopping or whatever, and there'll be plenty of room for other people to charge as well. So, and the superchargers run at about 5 times the speed of some of the chargers here. So this is a charger that could be, the car could be charged in, 15 to 20 minutes. They can't charge super fast all the way to the top of the battery, because that much power going in creates a lot of heat. But the car and the charger are working together to take good care of the battery and to charge it at its optimum profile of charging. And that's, again, a reason that Tesla has kept their own plug. It's not really to block anybody out, and they have talked about adding some of the additional plugs to their chargers so that some of those can be used by other vehicles, because they're wanting to promote the adoption of electric cars. And so I look forward to, those being opened up in the future. So, and then this is what I just wanted to show. This is actually just the Tesla network across the US. So as you can see from this map, there are no Tesla chargers here on Newfoundland yet. We have spoken with them. They are coming, maybe as soon as this year, but for sure next year. But as you can see, once there's a lot of them, again, you're never going to charge at a fast charger close to your house. You're only going to charge at a fast charger when you're traveling somewhere. So you can kind of picture any place in the US and in Canada that you wanted to get to, that it would be relatively easy to hop between those to get charging. And so that's where it's going. So even though you don't see these yet, I've seen them, I've used them, and it all will work. The infrastructure will get in place, and lots of companies are working together to make that happen. And so there again will be a day where there won't be gas stations. There will just be chargers everywhere, and everyone will have one at their home, and they'll only a couple times a year use any fast chargers. And most of the time they'll just charge at home and think how strange it was that people used to go to gas stations and fill up their car along the way. That why didn't people have just gas pumps at their house? Why would you do it like you do a charger? Because it'll seem so simple to us how we transport electricity versus how we transport gasoline. So it's coming. So in order to get to this point, there's clearly a lot of infrastructure that has to occur and has to be improved. And that's in the area of cars, that's in the area of technology, of charging, of power, and of service. So this will, I believe, be the largest game changer in my lifetime, and most likely in your lifetime. That the fundamental way that our society works changes when we change how we power our transportation. And so a lot of other things are going to change along with this, but that's also the exciting part. So, in manufacturing, there's the manufacturing of the cars, there's the manufacturing of the batteries, and there's the recycling. So the batteries that come out of the cars, the batteries will last a very long time, last at least 10 years. So you'll never change the battery. The car will fall apart before the batteries will. But should the car get in an accident, those batteries that aren't damaged can be taken out of the car and repurposed for storage for solar power or other alternative power sources. And so they'll be reused. And when we get to the point that the batteries are, having 500,000 miles, 1 million miles on them, and they aren't useful anymore, they can be 100% recycled. And there's already recycling facilities in Nevada, in the States. So there's lots and lots of opportunities in this space. There's also a lot of opportunities, and there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to happen in the computer technology. Part of it is the programming of the user experience. Again, I have a lot of pictures of my own car, so this is the screen in my car. And as you can see, there's almost no buttons in my car, and all of the buttons are on the screen, just like an iPad. And it plays everything from Spotify to YouTube to arcade games to controlling how the car works. And somebody had to program all that. And my car updates every 2 weeks, just like your cell phone updates. And my car does things today that my car didn't do 2 years ago, because there's this, the electric cars are really almost like a glorified cell phone, in the sense that they're so much of what they are software. There's also going to be a lot of technology improvements in the automation of driving, whether that's the cars driving themselves or just the cars communicating with each other to prevent accidents, or in the communication with like the chargers, so you can most efficiently, everyone can use the chargers. And then I just talked about the entertainment and the management and the updates. So there's lots and lots of technology to get an electric car to run, and all of the brands of cars have a version of this type of a screen, and controlling the car through software versus mechanically controlling the car. I'm sorry. Also, there's the charging. The charging is going to have to increase. That's, from the utility pole all the way to the car itself. Again, I think that the majority of the charging will come from everybody charging at home. And we have a display here at the Resource Center that show people what chargers look like, and that they can have one at home, and it's just a one-time setup. And every day you can use it, and you could use it on more than one car, and you could let your friend charge at your house when they come over. So this is just going to be a standard thing that everyone will have one at their house. But there are going to be electricians that need to install that. There's going to be installers that, after the electrician's done all the work, just goes in and installs, like this charging station here, installs all of the other components around the charging stations. There'll also be these things require maintenance. There'll be people who go around and do that, and city planners are going to have to do it, planning around where the charging things might go, and just the power lines and all of that. We're going to have to bring more power and bigger lines so that these charging stations can work. But that's just a matter of planning, and parking lots can be dug up, and those lines can be laid, but it'll be better when it's planned that way. And I think there will be a lot of improvements over time as well in just the design of charging stations. Should a charging station be like a gas station, or should they be near more entertainment things, or should they be near restaurants, or should they just be along the highway, or should they have a washroom, and should they have trash cans and all of that? And I think a lot of those things will get fleshed out in the years ahead. And somebody's going to have to think about those things, design those things, and implement those things. So it's exciting that kind of things will even be thought of.
I'm going to
And
interrupt
last,
you for 1 second. I'm sorry,
sure.
but this is a perfect time. So we could do gamification, and I didn't even plan this, but Urban Planner is their gamification code
Oh,
in terms of a career that might relate. So you just covered, I don't even have to explain what that is anymore. But there are bachelor's and master's degrees in urban and regional planning, geography, architecture, engineering, and some related degrees as well. So Urban Planner gamification code. Thanks so much.
oh, perfect, perfect. All right, and then obviously there's going to be a lot as it relates to power. You know, Newfoundland is in such a great position. So much hydroelectric power, as you can see from this graph. I forgot where I got this, but it's from NRCan, that 96% of the generation of electricity here is hydroelectric. So that's fabulous. And that also means there is an excess of power here, that there won't be a problem as more and more people go to having electric vehicles, but there will be engineers that are needed to create more. There will be that design and installation of power lines and rethinking the grid in that sense. But again, it's a lot easier to transport more and more and more electricity than it is to transport more and more liquid. And so that's an exciting piece of it. And there'll be lots of opportunities as it relates to the installation of solar panels, as people realize if they have solar panels on the roof, that they could power their car that way. How strange that you could literally get free energy out of the air. So, and then this is a great one too. You know, there's a lot of opportunities in the areas of service, and whether that's in sales. And honestly, you know, at the resource center here, we don't sell cars. We're just here to answer people's questions about understanding this transition to electric cars, so they'll make their next car electric. And honestly, the biggest complaint that I get when people come in is, I went to a dealership and nobody there knows anything about cars or knows anything about electric cars. And so, you know, if there's an interest in people and an interest in this technology, you can have that mechanical understanding in your mind and be able to express that in an educational way to people and still contribute to this movement towards electric cars. There's also a lot of need for technical support. You know, a couple of times I've had to call technical support, which is strange to say, yeah, I'm in a snowstorm and I can't get my charger door open, and I'm concerned because if I can't charge my car, you know, I'm going to have a problem. And somebody on the other line was able to help me from who knows how far away and explain to me what I was able to do to help the car, you know, unfreeze itself, and what I needed to run to get that to do that and to help me that way. And that was such a strange thing. I've also been able to call and have them, they were able to diagnose the problem I had with my car. They sent me over the air, like, again, just like an update on my phone, to my car specifically to repair something that wasn't working. And that was so strange to me that that was possible. But there's somebody with a very technical mind, someone who has good customer service skills, who was able to calmly understand my problem and then provide me a really quick fix for something that in another type of car would have meant going to a repair shop, but was able to be fixed with software. So a new world. There'll also be people who do repairs on electric cars. And I wanted to show this picture of the Tesla Service Center because I've actually been to these, and these are what they really look like. Spotless clean, because there's hardly any maintenance on any electric car. There's never an oil change. There's no fluids that get changed out. And so the service centers look like showrooms. They're spotless. There's nothing dripping on the ground, like in the picture below. There's nothing old and dusty and yucky and anything there. It's kind of disorienting in the sense of, oh, I guess there isn't all this burning and emissions and oil and all this stuff everywhere. And so the service center itself stays very clean. And I think that's an important thing. If you're very mechanical with your hands, learning to do service on an electric car is a much more of a thought game, because there aren't a ton of parts to an electric car. It's more of an understanding of like a mystery of deducing why is the car doing this specific thing. And so it takes a much more technical mind, but in fixing it, it's not this big greasy mess. It's changing out a wiring harness, or it's changing out a computer chip, and it's done in a very clean environment. So I think that's just the most interesting thing that I've learned as I've driven around. And so it's just a different type of person that wants to work in there and is excited about learning how these cars work, and then being the detective that figures out how to fix them. And then obviously there's people like me who are in the education part of electric vehicles. And I did just want to mention, in case anyone here is not continuing on to a school next year or knows someone who's not, is we are actually looking for an intern for the next 9 months, and it is a paid internship. So if you have any interest in that and you're not otherwise working or in school, please contact me, and I'd love to chat with you and see if you might be a good fit for that, or somebody else that you know is. So, and then lastly, I was going to make some big slides about this, but I realized as I started brainstorming all of the possible careers that could be related to the EV industry, that it's a lot. And so just in research and development, there's chemists and material scientists. In technology and planning, there's mechanical drafters, software developers, commercial and industrial designers, urban and regional planners, electric power line installers and repairs, and electricians. There's all these engineerings and how they each relate back to the evolution of the electric vehicles. And because to change out all the vehicles that we have, for them all to go electric, the old ICE cars will stay around for a while, but there's going to be so much movement this way that there will be jobs in all of these areas. And I think that's really exciting. I think, wow, I'm still a chemical engineer. It'd be interesting to work on the lithium ion batteries and the battery packs and then recycling. And just the civil engineers and the road planning with the infrastructure for the electric vehicles. And then all of these for manufacturing. And so if you're watching this when it's recorded, you can pause it and read this. But I did just want to throw up here all the just different descriptions that I saw of careers that are related to electricity. And then here's the service ones as well. So just in closing, I just wanted to say, for me, with this being such a big change in how our world works, there's going to be a lot of these changes, and you can really choose your path within this. You may actually have a hard time staying at least related in some way to this change, but also, based on my experience, sometimes I think as you're looking forward to what you enjoy and what you might do someday, you think it has to be super specific, but anything that you do in STEM will open you up to all of these different areas. And taking my example, the things that I have done in consulting, in doing what I'm doing now, are all related, but didn't exist before. And so I could never have planned to be sitting in Newfoundland talking about electric vehicles to you, 20 years ago. But it's exciting that it was my willingness to be open to engineering and to math and to learning a process of thinking and of exploring and of being interested in taking that knowledge and expanding it beyond what I had learned into learning how to apply it in other areas. And I think that opportunity is going to be open to you as well as you pursue whatever direction in STEM that you do. And, if there's anything that I can do to help, feel free to drag your friends, your parents, anybody else into the resource center. We'd be happy to let you use our Wi-Fi and answer your questions. If you don't drive now, you will someday. And I'd love to chat with you about any questions you have about electric vehicles or the related fields. And that's what I have. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That was such a thorough presentation. I'm excited, honestly, myself to go back and pause those slides.
That is the great thing, kind of the replay crew, anyone who watches it recorded, it's great that that'll be available, for other people. So I'm glad.
Just right off the hop, you were talking about maybe some of these students will never drive a gas vehicle. And it just gave me shivers to think about that, because it was a dream for me 10 years ago, when I started driving 15 years ago, that I would have an electric vehicle. I was vaguely aware that these things existed, that, rich people somewhere.
Right.
But just the idea that, by 2035, Canada is banning the sale of new combustible vehicles or personal vehicles at least. And that's just the start. You're also kind of touching on, transport trucks going electric.
Yep.
So I have to ask now, are there electric transport trucks yet?
There are, and they're mostly in testing now. One of the big things that they are working on is actually letting them drive in caravans, so that the front one would have a driver, and there may be several behind that don't have drivers. That'll be another big improvement that comes along with that. But they do exist. They're mostly in testing right now, but there's companies like Pepsi and Walmart and all that have already purchased, pre-purchased hundreds of them. And so we'll probably start to see those in the next, year to two. So
Wow.
it's there. I saw a demonstration where they showed because electric vehicles have instant torque, they can pull a lot more. People think of an electric car as a toy, and it doesn't have a lot of power, but it's actually quite the opposite. It'll launch you back in your seat in any electric vehicle, even the cheapest, slowest one. And so when they did a demonstration with an electric semi next to a regular semi, they showed, as you get on an on-ramp, you hate to be behind an electric or a semi because they're so slow. And they showed how much faster an electric semi will pass a gas-powered semi, and that there is no problem with it having the power to pull that kind of weight. And that's mind-boggling to me as well.
Absolutely. Wow. That is something to, really, really digest that one.
Well, and think of even just delivery vehicles and fleet vehicles for businesses, or school buses or regular buses. Once all of those go to electric as well, again, there's really no size limitation or power limitations, that how much quieter the roads will be, and also how much less exhaust and stuff there will be. Mm-hmm. There's even in Norway, they have rules that in the middle of the day, you can't run your construction equipment because it's too loud for when they have preschoolers taking naps. But the companies that have invested in large equipment that's electric, they can still run theirs. And so there's big equipment for construction that can also run on electric, which again is just until you really start thinking about it, and you can fall into a hole on YouTube that's super deep in exploring, well, can you do this with electric? Can you do that with electric? And so, I think we will slowly see all the vehicles will move that way, and it's already happening.
That's so wholesome that they do that for toddlers.
I
I
know,
was
isn't that
thinking
great?
you were I thought you were going to say for the environment, ecology. One of the weird but interesting studies that came out of the pandemic is that bird song has become longer and more intricate in a quieter world. So that will happen again with electric vehicles. If we have a quieter world, then it has these sorts of effects. So back at the beginning of your presentation, you said this is going to transform everything, and it's so true. Like it's so integral to just everything.
Yes, for sure. And, I think once people understand the cost savings, I just had a friend of mine, in the States. I haven't seen her in probably 6 or 8 months, but she's texted me a picture and she's like, look, my city in Missouri got a Tesla as their police car. And she sent me a picture of it. And it's got the lights on it and it's got everything. But they had written a thing up in the, I guess the meeting notes of the town council or whoever had to approve it. And when they did the analysis, even though the car was more expensive, it was so much less in maintenance and in fuel costs that this very tiny town now has this Tesla as a police car. And even just for the average person, the cost of electricity right now is less than 20% the cost of gasoline to go the same distance in the same size vehicle. And so that makes a huge difference. You'd see a little bump up in the amount that you pay on your light and heat bill. If you spent $500 a month on gas, your electric bill is going to go up $100, but now you're not spending $500 a month on gas. And that's a huge thing. And the way prices are going up, that's a giant thing. So, I think that's where a lot of people just haven't heard that it's that big of a difference, that it's not hard to manage, that it's inexpensive, that the cars don't take much maintenance, and that they're, I would venture to say, better than an ICE vehicle. You won't be giving up any performance or any luxury or any functionality just because it's electric. And in most cases, I would say most people think that they're just better, more fun cars to drive. So
I can't wait to get one myself.
okay, well, and if you don't have one, we're going to do test drive events at the center, as well as we'll be getting some vehicles that you can test drive if you're old enough to have a license. But you can also, if you come in with your parents, you can come in for a test ride, and we can take you for a ride just so you've had the experience. Because I'm surprised the number of people that have never sat in or ridden in an electric vehicle. So even when I was traveling, I probably gave 2 test rides a day for 3 years, because just because people would start talking to me when I was in the parking lot of a grocery store at a charger and would want to know about it. And I just say, do you want to go for a ride? Do you just want to feel what it feels like? And well, sure. And it instantly changes people's mind once they've just been able to feel what it feels like to drive in an electric car. So again, I encourage anyone who's interested, drag your parents down, drag your relatives down, and be happy to see if we can't show you some cars and get you in one. So I would love to do that sometime.
Excellent. And I know your address is right up there. But I'll just ask the question. Some of our members are across the province. Are there any events planned elsewhere or other resource centers, or for now, is it really Pippi Place?
Well, it's the center of it right now is at Pippi Place. We will be doing informational, like kind of online teaching sessions like this over the course of the year. Oh, I should have put our website up here, but it's driveelectricnl.ca. Any events that we have going on will be listed there. There is a roadshow across the province going to, I can't remember where all the stops are off the top of my head, but Gander, Rocky Harbor, Grand Falls, Windsor, I think. Portabask, all of that. So our founder, John Seary, will be taking his Model X, towing a trailer, bringing his whole family across the province and stopping along the way. And other EV drivers, electric vehicle drivers, will be joining him there at the times that we'll list when those are all firmed up on our website, that people in those areas can stop by, meet all those people, look at all the vehicles in person, and get a taste of that. So please look out on our Facebook at Drive Electric NL or our website, driveelectricnl.ca, and you can keep up with that kind of stuff that we're doing. And also, again, I should have put my phone number up here as well, but that's also on the website. And I talk to probably at least 1 or 2 people a day that are not in St. John's. Just call me on the phone and have some questions, and I either just sit on the phone and talk to them, or if there's a specific question, I can send them some resources or point them in the right direction. So we're happy to, serve the whole province, and look forward to doing that.
Perfect. Well, I'm so glad to hear about the roadshow. If any of the students do head out, send us your pictures. I'd love to see everyone at the events, and I'll certainly have a look out for them and give some shout outs in the clubhouse to remind people to just head out and meet you, or meet John at least in person.
I know I have to stay and work in St. John's, so why everybody else gets to travel around, but maybe next year I'll get to go. maybe if I find a good intern, I can go and leave the intern here.
There you go. Love it. Perfect. Well, thank you so much, Kira. This has been quite amazing, and I don't even know, there's no loopholes for me to ask any more questions. You just absolutely did a phenomenal job, and thank you just so much, and I hope everyone has a wonderful evening and week.
All right, thanks so much, and appreciate the opportunity, and look forward to meeting some people. So if you stop in, let me know that you heard about this through STEM, and would love to meet you. So take care.